Meeting of the Ethics and Election Committee, January 2019, called to order. And let's do some introductions, starting with Mr. Dunbar.
Forrest Dunbar.
Austin Quinn Davidson.
Eric Rogers.
Mr. Trainee on the phone.
I'm here on the phone.
Barbara Jones.
Gretchen Wemhoff.
Natalie Wilson.
Amy Solberg.
You can call me Vermin.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's go down to new business, and we'll start there with an update on the 2019 regular municipal election. Do you have any information for us?
We have
Ms.
lots of information for you. We are so excited. Today is January 9th. We are at E-83, so 83 days until the regular election. So our election team, and you've already, Amy Solberg, you all know, and she introduced herself. Anna was out of the office. Anna Campione, our election assistant, and you're going to hear a little bit in our update from Anna and Amy. So I have an election calendar for you, and if you could, I'm just going to pass these out. The good news is they're on the website, and we sent them to you, I think December 14th. We sent them to the administration. A couple of dates that I'd like to point out, besides the filing for office deadline that's coming up, is the January 15th, last day to introduce ordinances and props for the April ballot. January 29th, final day for assembly public hearing on those ordinances and props. I took a little gander at the agenda. There's 10 items on the agenda for the ballot. So yeah, it's going to be another full ballot. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know those are really important dates for us. Another date that I would like to point out for you is January 30th. It says that is the last day to submit initiative or referendum petition signatures to appear on the ballot. I just wanted to let you know that that's out there. There are 2 petitions currently circulating. One is to repeal the plastic bag ban. Wow, say that fast 3 times. The second one is to repeal the CWA ordinance, okay?
Mr. Dunbar.
Maybe you're getting this, but I thought they actually had till like mid-February based on the statutory time frame.
Right. So there's 2 deadlines, and interestingly, we got a call yesterday from one of the sponsors, and so I made it really clear. I sent them the calendar, and I called to explain this because those are 2 different statutory deadlines. The deadline is 90 days from the time of certification to get those signatures back, or it's dead, right? And we all know we've had lots of petitions that have been certified, petition applications that have been certified, that they've never got the signatures back, and those die, right? But there's a different deadline for the ballot. So we have to have a deadline, and that's the January 30th deadline, because if we don't get them back, we have 10 days to review all the signatures. So 10 days after January 30th is February 5th. That's our deadline to get the ballot printed. We have to get that language on the ballot. That's why it's a January 30th deadline. So you're right, Mr. Dunbar. There's one petition that has a deadline of January, is it the 18th or the 14th? What is the one? I thought it was January 18th, but I could be wrong. One of them might be about January 16th.
It's January 14th.
14th, it is the 14th. So one is January 14th. That's their 90 days. So they have to have it here by the 14th, and we can get that on the ballot for the April ballot. The other one has a deadline of February, we said February 18th. It's going to be the 19th. Okay, February 19th is the deadline but they can get them here on the 19th. They can be valid, but it will not be on the ballot. The ballot will already be printed by the 19th.
It'll be on the next one.
Next one.
No, that is not exactly correct. That would be correct for an initiative. An initiative rolls to the next regular election. A referendum, there are a couple of options, and Dean can probably pull up the code for us, but if I recall off the top of my head, what the charter says is that a referendum has to be placed on the next regular or special election 75 days after certification. That would be April 13th is what I think I calculated. Or the assembly has to suspend the ordinance until a special election. So we'll have some decisions for you to make on that other one.
And-
Call for a special election or suspend the ordinance.
Is that the CWA or the BEC?
CWS.
Correct.
Point of clarification, CWA.
Community Workforce Agreement.
Thank you.
And so both of the petition organizations are aware of what their deadline, the very last deadline day is.
Well, Mr. Chair, you know, I don't give legal advice
Oh, okay.
to people. That would be a violation of my duty to the municipality because I work for the municipality. We provide the code and we do provide general guidance to people. And so I have notified the sponsors of on the plastic bag ordinance. It doesn't matter because theirs would be here before the deadline. But for the CWA, I have provided them the calendar and I have pointed out the date on the calendar.
Okay. All right, fantastic.
Okay, Mr. Dunbar, you look troubled.
No, I just.
Okay.
We, in our code now, we've set up a system where someone can basically blackmail the city into holding a very expensive special election. Or a citywide vote by mail election that can either force that or make us suspend the ordinance until the next regular election by intentionally missing the January 30th deadline.
Right. Or more neutrally, by the timing of when they submit their.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm as disturbed as you are. So is that charter or code?
That is charter, Mr. Croft, and so one of the things that I'm just going to bring up, I know we're going to be talking about our amendments to Chapter 2.70. That's vacancies in office. We discovered some problems there as well with the timing in the charter, and so I think that that's a topic that probably needs to be revisited because the issue is when we were doing poll-based elections, maybe you could, and we were a smaller city, you may have been able to pull something off in 75 days. I think that is just absolutely, or 60 days for a special election. Those dates are just not realistic for a city that I'm going to tell you has 235,000 registered voters.
Yep.
So I guess that'll be just charter amendments on our radar. So those are the two most important deadlines that I wanted to point out on the calendar. Of course, filing for office is also on the calendar. And we have 5 assembly seats, 2 school board seats, 28 LRSA seats that are coming up. I just wanted to remind everyone, because last year we had a little, some concern that LRSA candidates will not be counted. The code that was adopted in January of 2016 says LRSA candidates will be disqualified if they do not file as a write-in candidate 5 days before the election. And We're including that on all of our filing for office paperwork. It's on the website. We just want to make sure that people are aware of that. We've talked to Public Works about it when they let the LRSA folks know.
LRSA.
Local road service area.
Service, okay.
So it's all boards of
Right,
supervisors.
okay.
And so, Amy and Anna, do you have any additional updates for filing for office? I guess I've got,
Yeah, so the alphabet drawing, that is the order in which the candidate names are going to be on the ballot. That is going to be January 17th.
okay? And then here's a pretty cover sheet for the filing for office paperwork
I was
that
just going to
Anna's
say, we
done.
also will have a press release to go out the day before, announcing that on the 16th.
And we just wanted to let you know the filing for office paperwork is on the website. We're using our logo and things like that.
Yes, you know what this looks like.
Okay, the next thing, Election Center will be up and running next week. We had some minor earthquake damage. The best thing that happened, we've got 9 cameras over there, so we got to watch the earthquake.
Wow.
So we saved that video, and Anna has it now, and we're trying to figure out a way to consolidate the 9 cameras and then maybe put some of that on our social media. It's not quite as dramatic as some of the stuff that we've seen, but it's still interesting.
It's a good thing, though.
Yes, that's right. Right.
So the machines were not damaged. So-
Well, let me just give some kudos to this team over here. All of the equipment was covered. Everything, all of our computers, we have 47 computers over there, printers, everything was covered.
Wow.
And so there was dust shaking down from the ceiling, but everything's fine. So they did a great job. I think that I'm working with the municipal manager's office. There's some cracks in the floor. It looks like we may need to repaint the floor. So I'm going to include that as a potential disaster expense for us through the municipal manager's office.
But the cracks aren't big enough that we think there's structural damage to the point where the building is not usable?
I don't know the answer to that. You know, we lease the building, and so I think that's a landlord function. And so Dennis Wheeler is working with the landlord on that.
Okay.
Okay? So when the election center is open, it's probably going to have some limited hours starting up in January. We're going to get really geared up in February. But it'll be open the whole period of, will it be open 8 to 5 for the filing for office? Yeah, 8 to 5 starting on the 18th when the filing for office opens. We're training and hiring workers. We're going to have fewer workers. We've discovered that that's pretty clear. We had too many workers well, maybe not too many, but we think we're more efficient after the special election, and we're not going to need as many workers. We have an address verification postcard that went out last year. The address verification postcard will be going out next week. 235,000 registered voters. So up from 218,000 last year.
Cool.
All right. Update on drop boxes and accessible vote centers. Amy's going to report to you about that.
And just a second before we get into that, so we're going to be sending out 235,000 cards for people to have the ability to verify whether their voting address is correct on those cards. And so if that card comes back to us returned to sender, then we take that voter off the rolls, or we try to contact them a different way.
So what happens is, remember, so I'm going to back up a little bit. The ballot package is not forwardable,
Right.
but the postcard is.
Oh, okay.
So if you've moved, you're going to get the postcard at a new address. It's going to have the wrong address. It says change your address, and that the ballot package isn't forwardable. So we hope that they change those. We are in the process, everything is done except we have to have a barcode added to the postcard so that when all of those postcards that are returned to us are provided to the state, and then the state will enter those into the database as undeliverable. And then for all of the undeliverables, the code says we do not deliver a ballot package to them. So last year, we only mailed 194,000 ballot packages. So, and I expect we had another 20,000 returned. So I expect you're going to have probably about 30 to 40,000 undeliverables. And so that'll reduce our cost for mailing the ballot packages substantially. So yes, Mr. Chair, we do keep track of the ones that are returned, and we will provide those to the state and make them undeliverable in the state database.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay,
And so I guess it's Amy's turn now.
yes.
So, the drop boxes and ABCs, I just want to let you all know that we ordered 4 new secure drop boxes, and they look identical to the ones that we have now. They're the white 3x4, so 3 feet by 4 feet. And then the accessible vote center, currently we're looking into getting a sixth accessible vote center in East Anchorage.
And we're making progress on all that, so we'll just keep reporting back to you. So the one additional thing I wanted to talk to you about our application to vote at a temporary address. This is the former absentee application. Both the state and us are trying to eliminate the use of the term absentee. And so this is because everybody is essentially voting absentee. And so if you're going to be, my son is in New Mexico at college, so his permanent address is our mailing address in Anchorage, but he'll apply to have his ballot mailed to his temporary address in New Mexico. And that's what the purpose of this. This form is on the website. I am very proud to say it is now a PDF fillable form. We are making progress in using technology to make all of our materials accessible to voters and as usable as possible. There's also a fax and an email form that's available on the website. Is there anything else about our application for temporary address?
I just was really impressed with getting it fillable as quickly as we had a suggestion from a voter, and we, within 24 hours, had it up and running. So, way to go, Amy.
And Mandy.
And Mandy, yeah.
So I'm gonna really brag about this. So the clerk has a vision statement that our vision is to courteously and accurately, but also timely connect the assembly, the administration, and the public to the democratic process of local government. And we did that. So I'm just really proud of us, you know, that we have a vision statement and we do it. We got a request yesterday and we did it yesterday. So,
Nice job.
thank you.
That's great.
Yeah,
So can I ask a question?
of course.
This
Miss
is
Miss
Austin.
Quinn Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Chair. So I assume the temporary address thing has to do with where you're officially a resident of. And so for college students, he's probably a resident of Alaska who's at college, and that's why he can do a temporary address.
Correct.
It all gets back to the, okay.
Yes, so everybody has to be a registered voter. You have to have an Anchorage residence address. You have to provide that info to us, and then you say where you want your ballot mailed. I think most of our temporary ballots are probably snowbirds, wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
Some military probably.
Yeah.
You know, military, actually, they use their APO.
Oh.
So their APO is their official address. Does that sound correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're in the original batch of mailing. They probably don't need to apply for a temporary ballot.
see.
Some of them who maybe own a home here might, if they're on a temporary overseas duty assignment, they would, but otherwise, most of our military voters have their APO address. So the last topic I have, Mr. Chair, is an outreach and education update. And Anna is doing that for us. And Anna, do you want to give us a little update?
So basically, I've been working on campaigns for Facebook, trying to figure out a way to re-engage our voters. So that's in progress, as well as a timeline calendar of when we post what, to kind of following the election calendar, and what else? Basically, and if you all have any ideas or pictures or anything that you want to share that you think may be a great idea, please don't hesitate to contact me. So we're always looking for new ways.
So during the previous election cycle, we did outreach to community councils to educate them. Or is there any plan to do any more of that for this election?
We're in the process of talking about how to revamp. The landscape's going to look a little bit different because it is our second one. So we're talking about exactly how it's going to look.
So, Mr. Chair, I think the dilemma that we've got is that, we can't spend as much time or money as we did last year because we just you don't have the resources and you don't want us to spend those resources.
Correct.
But one of the things last year, we had to invent everything. We had to invent all of the posters and all of the materials. Well, we don't have to do that this year. So that's good. But I think that we have the dilemma of complacency, and so we want to make sure that we're doing super effective outreach and education to make sure that we can maintain or improve what we did last year. So it's kind of, a catch-22, and we don't know where we're going to fall on that. We haven't quite figured that out. I doubt that we have the staff to go to all of the community council meetings. So if you would like to request us, we may be able to consider requests, but we just don't have staff to do that like we did last year.
Gretchen?
Is it appropriate for assembly members to take the flyers and things and go to all the meetings and be part of that?
Answer questions, yes.
Yeah, okay, so that we could probably help that system.
We would love that, and we'll make little packets available for you to pass out you tell us you have a community council meeting, we'll set up a whole setup for you to take to the meeting.
Okay, cool.
One other thing is we are going to continue to engage our stakeholders group, and so we plan on having a meeting the end of this month, beginning of February, to kind of bring them back into the fold and let them know where we are and what's going on with elections.
Right, they can help with outreach to their specific groups, sort of
They were
as
so
a
important.
reminder of what happened last year, let's do it again this year type of deal.
Yes.
So
good.
thank you very much to the committee and Mr. Chair. That is our election update. We thought it was important that we shared it with the committee first. And we're going to repeat this on Friday to the full assembly. We wanted to do that before filing for office opens next week. If you have any questions, suggestions for how you would like this to look to the full assembly, please let us know.
All right, fantastic. Well, so I guess that finishes up new business. We've got old business down here. We have code rewrites on our agenda. Anything about AMC Chapter 28 rewrite that we want to discuss today?
And I'll talk about that one. It'll be Title 28. It's the whole title. And I think some of you know that the committee that's doing that is me, Dennis Wheeler, Dean, Becky Witt Pearson, and Amy. and that's our team for that. You know, we ended up falling off because of the holidays in December, and we're going to try, and we were going to try and continue to meet, but Ms. Wint Pearson is out, and apparently she is going to be cheerfully out beginning in February for her new son, who will be arriving sometime in February. So we made a decision in November that we would not present a rewrite on Title 28 until after the election. We don't like to ask people who are running for election to vote on changing the code regarding elections. Seems to me that might be a potential conflict for some of you. So we'll wait until after April to get those rewrites to you. And then, so that's it for Chapter 28. We're going to keep working on it. We'll probably have a draft for this committee sometime before April, so you'll be seeing that. And then, Dean, would you talk about Chapter 2.70?
Well, I guess, sure. So our working team for that has been Austin, Quinn Davidson, and myself, Barbara, and Amy involved.
Amy's been involved in that too.
So basically the appointment process, and we want to improve it and how it's laid out in code. And I think Barbara mentioned a little while ago how we recognize charter has some time frames that make it really problematic to, I guess, fulfilling a vacancy, having a special election in 60 days. So we talk about changing that, but we don't want to do that now. That would be a charter amendment for the 2020 ballot. So we're focused on the appointment process, and what we can do is was lengthy, and there's some time frames that they refer to in terms of really people challenge the qualifications, determinations, whether a candidate who's determined to be disqualified for the clerk's review and challenge, or any person can challenge someone who's determined to be qualified, but someone disagrees, and have an administrative process to figure that out. That makes a 30-day appointment process really impossible to keep it, or at least an appointment would be subject to the outcome of that administrative process. But in researching the law, an appointment doesn't really require that kind of due process for qualifications determinations. So we're not changing that, fixing that time frame, having it more straightforward and simple. We also saw that the publication time frame for the notice of the vacancy and having to apply for the appointment of 10 days isn't really necessary. We can shorten it to 5 days. So we've got some points here and there in 270 that we can work on. But similarly to the Title 28 process, we thought it might not be a good idea to try to submit this ordinance to the Assembly while we were filling a recent appointment. So, and now with the election going on, Barbara's teams were busy focused on that. So I think that we will going to get the ordinance after the election for Title 2 students. Is that correct? For our time frame?
Yeah, why don't we bring that one to the committee as soon as it's available, and we can have the committee review and make any edits, and then it'll be
Ready.
I think we have a couple of rounds of review to do. We can do that.
Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to say that I think my main concern was while Gretchen was being appointed, we didn't want to change it. It really depends on Barbara, you and your team, and how much time you guys have to participate in this process prior to the election. But I don't have a problem with working on it and even bringing it to the full assembly prior to the election. But I think we'll just have to see how that goes. I think, Dean, is it with you right now? We've traded back and forth. We've had several meetings, and I think it's we're just waiting for the next draft. But I can't remember who's working on it at this stage.
I'm working on that right now. So I don't need to do it up too much. I need to juggle it major project priorities, but I think putting that off until after the election.
Yeah, I think, however.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe we can keep it on the agenda for next month for this county and try to have a decent draft.
Perfect.
So it will go.
Have maybe a draft next month to go over for the committee?
Well,
Okay, well, that sounds good. Anything else on Old business. Well, normally in previous meetings in old business, we had on our agenda talking about Saturday becoming the official election day. And I see Mr. Croft is actually here for this meeting.
We took it off.
And I'm wondering if that is a subject that you wanted to discuss, since we actually have a couple minutes left here at the end of the meeting.
Well, sure, I continue to think that Tuesday is a relic of farmers in the 1700s, and that we've done great leaps and bounds on vote by mail, and particularly Barbara and her crew's implementation of it. But we are slowly bringing the election process. We're slowly using 1800s technology in our election process. Benjamin Franklin would have been familiar with the system we're using for voting now. And I continue to think we should rethink why a Tuesday makes any sense at all. Now, you had very practical concerns before in the way the code and the charter and some of the timing, maybe even larger concerns than that. So I want to give you equal time, but I'm sure, I know those are valid, or there's some things that we would have to overcome. But I still think on the larger sense, it remains at least illogical and maybe crazy to do it on Tuesday.
Well, obviously, I believe it would take a charter change, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Do you know, Mr. Chair, I'm not quite sure about that. I think the issue that we had is that all of the dates in the calendar are driven by the 7 days. So what I just thought of when Mr. Croft said that, when we look at our rewrite to Title 28, I'll look at this. If we look at the assembly picks election day and the call for the election, so that make the assembly pick it, and then it's always a function of 7 days. You know, the dilemma that we have, or we could make it 8 days, and then that would make filing for office open on Friday, or that you have to get the petitions in on Friday. But if it's 7 days, then everything happens on a Saturday, and that was a problem because we don't have staff working on Saturdays. But we could figure out, so we'd have to change that. That's the dilemma that we've got right now, but we will look at it in our rewrite team.
Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Thank you.
Since you mentioned if it was a charter thing, I just pulled it up. So Section 1101 of the Charter says elections are the first Tuesday of October, unless otherwise determined by ordinance.
Oh.
So, like Bob said, just pass an ordinance to change it to Saturday or whatever.
There you go. Cool. All right. Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you explained, Eric, why it's old school. I get it. I'm all about getting rid of old school stuff if there's a reason. But I didn't hear from you why you think Saturday is better. So if you could just explain.
Yeah, well, having it, some of the pressure's off now that we have vote by mail, but having it on a work day has always been worse, it seems to me, than having it on a day people have off to get it together. Again, some of that lessened with vote by mail, but now I think you can have this process where you say, you have all week, and then Saturday's your catch-up if you didn't get it done, sort of. And people can look in the morning and make sure it all happens. At least rethink Tuesday, right? At least Tuesday, as far as I can tell from looking at it, is a change of wanting to go to church at your normal parish and then go a horse drive away to vote, and to some extent getting crops in, but is the reason we did it in the fall. But yeah, we at least ought to relook at Tuesday, and it does seem like a whole week of telling people about it and a catch up on Saturday makes some sense.
It seems to me with 3 weeks to vote by mail that it's less needed, but it's also not, if it's not a big problem for you guys, I guess I don't have much of an opinion either way.
Did we lose Mr. Trainee? Are you there, Dick?
I'm still here.
I think we added someone. Sounds like Fred.
All right, how about you?
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments, Dick, as long as we got you online?
Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, any other items for discussion? Ms. Jones?
Mr. Chair, one of the other things that we discovered that is not advertised, and we're not quite ready to advertise this, but the code says that the clerk cannot possess the ballots more than 90 days.
Do we trust that those private inspectors are doing
Mute.
an adequate job?
Do we trust for public ones are?
That's Fred.
Fred.
I think they accidentally hit a button.
I have no idea why they're using off-grid.
He was up on 6th floor when I came down here, so maybe he's doing something up there.
They shouldn't be
Do you want me
using.
to check in the clerk's office and see if they set them up?
Sure. Thanks, Amy. So the issue that I wanted to point out to you is that the code says that the clerk has to possess the ballots no more than 90 days. I hate those no more, no less than 90 days before the election. But I'm required to have them 21 days. So there's this little gap space there where I'm allowed to have them and I must have them. Well, we do have them, and last year we discovered a number of voters who were going to be out of the country beginning on March 12th through the election day, and they wanted to vote. And so we called them special circumstance voters, and I'm not sure how many there were, Anna, maybe like 50 total? Probably about 50 people total. And what we did was allowed them to come in and issued them a ballot. And so they came in March 1st, and we issued them a ballot on March 1st, between March 1st and March 12th, before the ballots were mailed. And so we're going to continue to do that. And I think that could go to the comment that you made, that it's not just Election Day. It's not just 3 weeks. It's almost 4 or 5 weeks. And we did it during the regular election. We actually opened the Accessible Vote Center. Was it open for 4 weeks? 4 weeks the Accessible Vote Center was open. And we're going to do the same thing so that we can accommodate voters who...
Including some weekends, right?
Yes, there are weekends at the LUSAC, but no weekends at the at the election center. We may want to think about having one weekend at the election center, but we haven't done that before. But that's a good point. Maybe that weekend, the weekend before the election. Yeah, the 30th. I mean, we're going to be working down there anyway that Saturday, so maybe we should open the ABC on that Saturday too. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we're getting organized and ready for this election, and we've done it a couple of times now. One main election last year, and then one special election. So this will be the third time will be the charm. Maybe this will just go off without a hitch. We're hoping.
We hope so, Mr. Chair.
So, any other questions or comments about any subject that we haven't discussed yet at this meeting that you're interested in?
I have a question, please, sir.
Ms. Wemhoff.
Yes, Chair Peterson.
Did I pronounce that right, by the way?
You did.
Thank
you did. It's the easiest way for everyone in the room is pretend that first H isn't there, and just go Wemhoff, and that's the way to do it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So you did well. I do have a question. Your meeting of discussing the appointment process and everything, is that an open meeting? That would you be interested in someone who went through it coming one day and sharing what their concerns were? Because I think that it would be good on my end to share that, and then walk away? Just put it out there. Is
I
that,
wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, with
Uh,
that.
So just so you have a little background, what happened is Ms. Quinn Davidson was assigned to this task force by the former chair, Mr. Dunbar, because she went through it. She went through so we're talking about both filling a vacancy, and there's two ways to fill the vacancy.
She had the special election.
By appointment and special election. So obviously Austin wasn't appointed, she was elected, but yes, you were appointed.
You might not only be allowed, you might have no choice.
Yeah, thank you. But I'm all about gathering information, and if I can offer anything that I felt was interesting, I would like to at least offer it for you on that. Yeah, in many ways, it was a very positive experience, but it was a sleep-losing experience making decisions. So I think it would be interesting if I could just share some of that. So, when is your next meeting?
If I can, Mr.
yeah.
Chair. We've been,
Oh, sorry, I'm
Ms.
supposed to
Quinn-Davidson, go ahead.
through the chair to you.
we've been meeting, we've met maybe 3 times, I think, total, and Dean and Barbara have come up with drafts, and then I've given feedback, and then they go back and make changes, and so it's been maybe a month or more since we worked on it with the holiday
Okay.
and everything, so I think it sounds like Dean's going to try to get the next draft so that we can bring it to this committee, which really means, if you got it out in a couple weeks, then we could have a little time to review it, and then we could meet a week before this or so and make any changes. So if that schedule all sounds good, and we've just been doing it pretty casually. I mean, we just find a time that works for all of us. It's not a public meeting. It's just us working with staff on proposing changes.
And is this where I say through the chair too?
Well, you can do that. If you
Yeah,
want.
I mean, that's all the stuff that I'm going to have problems with for a while. So it might also be fine for me to wait till you have your first draft and make a comment at this meeting.
Do you two have a preference?
I think we should work on it, join the drafting team, get the comments on, make it the best document we can to present to the body.
Okay, so.
That sounds great.
Okay, so.
Thank you for offering.
Yeah.
It'd be helpful to have one of each of us.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. And then these guys who really know what's going on and do everything related to elections.
Yeah.
So does that work for
I
you,
think
Dean?
within the
to-
next 2 weeks, I can
Okay.
have the next updated draft. I mean, I haven't worked on it for a
I
while
know.
since we had an improvement process.
Yeah.
I think we were pretty close. I had already written up there.
Okay.
And of course, it's not urgent, so,
Exactly.
if you can't, I shouldn't say that because then.
I can.
Thank you. And you now know my email address.
Well, I'm sure I can guess at that.
And you are going to be with us for a couple of more months, so, if they don't specifically have time in, this month, maybe we could do it next month or something.
Okay.
Be good
Thank
to
you.
do it while you're here, take
Right.
advantage of that knowledge.
Yeah. So.
And I actually just happen to think that, we are meeting on the 9th of January. Typically, we meet later in the month. The 4th Wednesday, I believe, is the day that this committee usually meets. And so since we met on the 9th, are we planning to meet later this month again?
Yes, Mr. Chair, today's meeting was basically our December meeting. We just bumped it a couple of weeks. And the other reason is we really wanted to give you an elections update before filing for office opened.
Okay.
So we'll just have your regular meeting in January, and hopefully we'll be able to have, a draft or something by then. We'll have, Amy will be in touch with you about an agenda for that meeting.
And so that will be on is it the 23rd, I believe, that's the 4th Wednesday, if I'm looking
So
at my
that's
calendar.
only 2 weeks from now, which doesn't give Dean a lot of time and then us a lot of time. Is there a need to meet on the 23rd, or should we just do it in February? That gives us a little more time to work through it.
I think that the proposal on the 2.70 was next month. So that was
Okay.
at the February meeting.
Got it. Perfect.
So for the next meeting, it'll just be a regular meeting, and we'll see what we end up with the agenda for the next meeting in January.
Okay.
'Cause
So,
it's-
we could move it to the 30th to give us 3 weeks between meetings if you wanted to do it that way.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll leave that up to you and Amy to discuss after this meeting, and we'll see what we've got for an agenda, and that might work very well.
Because that'll give us, Dean, another week, and that is our, actually, the last day to submit an initiative or referendum petition signatures is on the 30th of January, so may know by then whether we've received them or not.
Okay.
So, all right, so that'll be the plan. And I guess we're ready now for audience participation. Gene?
My name is Eugene Carhaven. I live in Madison Valley. Follow the public process. Public process done appropriately. Decision made by governing bodies more likely public interest. One, I'd like to compliment the chair of this meeting. I saw a great improvement in identifying who's speaking before they speak. It reminded the members here. This meeting is taped, but when there's a free-for-all situation, there's a lack of identity who is speaking and who they are. So, tremendous improvement, and I thank the chair. The other thing is just a footnote. I was going to leave it as that, but toward the end of the meeting, I was seeing like Assemblymember Dunbar left at 12:38, Croft left at 12:38, then returned 12:41, and then left permanently at 12:43. So, as part of the meeting, you note who's here in the beginning, and assembly meetings, you might also, as assembly members, consider when you do your assembly meetings, is when the assembly members leave in and out, that changes perspective of who's here and who's not here. And it's particularly important as on the audio tapes and not the videotapes, people are really blinded to who's here and who's not here. So, yeah, it would be good for the record to note that. It might also encourage the people to stay here, and instead of want to be recognized that they walked out. So it's a good part, and when there's discussions happening, which was very informative, and thank you for the information, and it's very positive. There's an unknown factor to who's hearing what when assembly members walk in and out like they do. And thank you very much, and by the way, Happy New Year.
All right. Thank you, Eugene. And we're officially adjourned.